Greetings, this is Dslyecxi from the Arma community group Shack Tactical. In cooperation with Bohemian Interactive, I'm creating a series of videos that explain some of the basics of Arma 3. Today we'll be looking at how to conduct reconnaissance, or more simply, recon. We'll be covering the various methods available, as well as some of the hows and whys of the process. In the context of Arma, recon involves looking for the enemy in a low-profile manner. You're trying to find them without them knowing about it, which allows you to gain a greater understanding of the tactical situation before committing to a plan of action. Recon is primarily about the enemy and any relevant terrain around and between you and them. This can happen in both an offensive and defensive context. In both cases, the goal is the same. You want to know the enemy's situation and time to be able to do something about it. This is a concept that applies to any aspect of Arma, no matter how you choose to play. Whether you're operating by yourself in an open world survival situation, or part of a larger team, single player or multiplayer, conducting recon on potential threats can go a long way towards setting yourself up for success. Let's look at a few examples of where recon would be utilized. If conducting an air assault into enemy territory, a recon element scouting out potential landing zones can help to safely get troops on the ground and avoid the insertion helicopters being damaged by enemy defenses. This might involve troops infiltrating the area in advance, or perhaps a UAV or a recon helicopter flying into the area shortly before the transports arrive. When moving towards an enemy objective, recon can be used to determine enemy positions, potential avenues of approach, and anything else that might help to give the attacking side advance warning of threats, or contribute towards a more successful attack. A convoy moving from one location to another, supported by a UAV moving along with and ahead of them to recon the roads they're traveling, can identify, avoid, or even react to potential enemy ambushes much more efficiently than otherwise. If defensive, recon elements can be employed to give early warning of enemy maneuvers, such as by establishing observation posts, sending out patrols, or utilizing UAVs, remote cameras, and UGVs to observe potential avenues of approach. Infantry have the greatest capability to conceal themselves, but are also the most vulnerable due to their limited speed, armament, and armor. Search for them in positions that offer some kind of protective benefit, generally in the form of cover, though concealment is also viable when cover is lacking. Look at their gear, paying special attention to the more powerful assets like machine guns, rocket and missile launchers, crew-served weapons, sniper rifles, suppressors, and so forth. A sneaky anti-tank team with good concealment and cover can wreak havoc on vehicles if not detected and neutralized in advance. Vehicles are generally easier to locate and identify than infantry, and their faster speeds and heavier arms and armor can make them dangerous opponents. Knowing the basic type of vehicle gives you a good idea of what will be required to defeat it. The main categories include tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, armored personnel carriers, and soft vehicles like transport trucks. Identifying high-threat vehicles early in the process helps you to make a decision as to whether you have the capability to destroy them. And if not, whether you can acquire that capability, or whether you should choose a different target that isn't so heavily protected. Active vehicles can be located through listening for their engines, observing roads, or locating dust being kicked up by off-road travel. Inactive ones may be deliberately concealed by nets, parked such that they can only be seen from narrow angles, or hidden under tree canopies or similar. An inactive vehicle will also have a lower thermal signature compared to one with an active engine, making it harder to see through thermal optics. In addition to enemy forces, you're also studying the terrain and structures in the area. This includes aspects of the terrain that may be occupied by the enemy, such as fortifications, buildings, and natural areas of observation or defense. But it's also anything that can be used against the enemy, like concealed routes that allow your force to move close before making contact. You have to remember to consider the terrain not only from your perspective, but also the enemy's. Even if you don't see them in a specific location, they've probably taken it into consideration as to how it fits into their own plans. A prominent hill near an enemy base may not have enemy troops visible on it, but perhaps they've defended it in some other way. It might be mined, or maybe they have it sighted in with a mortar or other heavy weapon. By gathering as much information as possible, you'll find it easier to manage risk and come up with a battle plan that accounts for as many possibilities as are reasonable. At the most fundamental level, reconnaissance can be carried out by infantry. This style of recon is stealthy but slow, requiring the infantry to move cautiously and carefully to avoid being detected during their mission. If contact is made, The enemy can rapidly bring heavier forces to bear to wipe out a small recon element, making the avoidance of enemy contact the top priority for such a team. Inserting a recon team into an area can be done in a broad range of ways and is primarily based on assets and time available. The key factor is that you don't want the enemy to suspect that a recon team has been inserted. Thus, they either need to arrive in silence or get dropped off far enough from the enemy that their method of insert can't be seen or heard. For silence, a team could be parachuted in at night, landing close to the target area without being audible. Another option is inserting from the sea via submersibles, which can use their sensor masts to scan for threats ashore while safely out to sea. For a noisier insert, teams can be flown close to the area by helicopter, completing the remainder of their movement on foot, or driven close to the area by any manner of ground vehicle. When mobility is more important than strict noise discipline, relatively quiet vehicles like ATVs can be used to move rapidly through an area. Infantry are able to carry gear that can help them to accomplish their goals from greater distances. Key among these are magnified scopes, binoculars, laser designators, and other highly magnified observation devices. By using these and choosing elevated positions, a small team can observe a large area in great detail, and with a designator, they can even call in accurate fire from supporting assets like air or artillery. Infantry can also place remote cameras that can help to give them an alternate perspective on an area, or provide reconnaissance data even after they've left the area. Aerial reconnaissance is often conducted with helicopters, particularly ones that have magnified sensor suites aboard, such as the Hellcat. A helicopter is able to take advantage of their unique flight characteristics to observe from afar, while staying low or high enough to avoid expected threats, and maneuvering as needed to get alternate perspectives on the area they're observing. Ensuring that recon aircraft don't directly and visibly circle what they're focused on observing can help to make it harder for the enemy to determine what the target is, or even if the aircraft's intent is recon. When it's too risky to send in a ground team, unmanned vehicles can be employed instead. A typical unmanned ground vehicle, or UGV, like the Stomper, can move with high mobility through an area, employing a sensor suite to gather information. While there's no risk to friendly units due to the unmanned nature of these assets, if the enemy detects a UGV, they'll know something's amiss and can react accordingly, potentially spoiling surprise. When the threat environment and weather permit, unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs or drones like the Darter and Greyhawk, are the best form of aerial recon. These are able to fly at altitudes that make them inaudible and unobservable from the ground, while having sensor suites that let them conduct detailed, wide area searches and often include thermal vision modes. When conducting recon, ensure that you do so in a fashion that preserves the element of surprise as much as possible. Use assets that are appropriate for the situation, ones that won't give the enemy advance notice of your intentions. Be stealthy and thorough, and have a plan on what to do if discovered by the enemy. For infantry, this might mean knowing where to fall back to more defensible positions while calling for an emergency extraction, and having ensured in advance that such extraction would be available. Carrying a few anti-personnel mines can help infantry to deter foot pursuit as well. While observing the situation, make sure you take time to carefully mark up enemy locations, defenses, and note anything else that might be useful for your side. This is often done on the map by placing map markers with labels, but voice communications can also convey this information back to higher leadership, which can then use the knowledge to help plan their actions. If you're looking to experience large-scale multiplayer gameplay utilizing Recon, combined arms, and other more complex topics, take a look at the many Arma community groups you can find on the Arma 3 Units page, linked here. For more community guide videos, be sure to subscribe to the official Arma 3 YouTube channel. For other Arma 3 updates, keep track of the official website, Facebook, and Twitter pages. If you like more in-depth tutorial and multiplayer gameplay of Arma 3 and the previous Arma games, I'd recommend you check out my channel here. This is Dslyecxi, and until next time, make sure you find them before they find you.